Hey guys, Tyler here. In a previous video, I charted the route of the USS Enterprise during Season 1 of Star Trek: The Original Series. While many locations in Star Trek are mapped in canon, not all of them are. I had to make several inferences based on in-universe travel times, using real astronomical objects as a reference, and piecing together evidence from a variety of non-canon materials. To my knowledge, this is something that nobody has done before. In this video, I'd like to continue our journey by mapping the route of the USS Enterprise in TOS Seasons 2 and 3. You don't have to have seen part 1 of this series to enjoy this video, since TOS is pretty episodic. But if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to do so either before or after this to get the full context. Like last time, I'll use production order instead of air date order, since production order just makes more sense chronologically. You'll see why. With that, let's dive in. In the first episode of Season 2, Cat's Paw, the Enterprise crew encounters witches, black cats, and haunted castles on the planet Pyrus 7. Pyrus has not been mapped in any of the modern Trek reference materials as far as I can tell, but an in-universe map called The Explored Galaxy, featured in installments such as TNG's Conspiracy and Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country, places it in the general vicinity of Capella. The thing about this map is, despite being a canonical Federation star chart, it still places many systems and locations that are, let's just say, completely wrong. And in any event, the non-canon reference books, Star Trek Star Charts and Stellar Cartography, the Starfleet Reference Library, have served as the basis for new canon maps. The fan site StarTrekMap.com by German artist Simon Matta places Pyrus near the Alpha-Beta Quadrant border, not far from Capella, so I'm putting it here as well. In the next episode, Metamorphosis, the Enterprise finds Zephram Cochrane, inventor of warp drive, on the planet Gamma Canaris N, which presumably orbits the real star Gamma Canaris, or Mulefin, 440 light-years away in the Beta Quadrant. Episode 3, Friday's Child, sees the Enterprise crew become involved in a power struggle on Capella 4, where the Klingons desire to establish mining rights. Capella, the brightest star in the constellation Auriga, is located in the Alpha Quadrant, 42 light-years away from Earth. In Episode 4, Who Mourns for Adonais, the crew meets the Greek god Apollo on the 4th planet orbiting Pollux, the brightest star in Gemini, in the Beta Quadrant. Episode 5, Amok Time, sees the Enterprise diverted to Vulcan from its course to Altair as Spock undergoes Pon farr. Vulcan, of course, orbits the star 40 Eridani in the Beta Quadrant. In Episode 6, The Doomsday Machine, a massive planet killer from outside the Milky Way galaxy, destroys planets in the systems L370 and L374, near Beta Rigel. In Episode 7, Wolf in the Fold, Scotty is accused of the murder of several women on Argelius 2, near Romulan space, though a more sinister force is ultimately the real explanation. In Episode 8, The Changeling, the Enterprise encounters an early 21st century Earth probe that is mutated into a more powerful machine intelligence, much like V'ger in the motion picture, and has destroyed the planet Meluria in the Beta Quadrant. In Episode 9, The Apple, the Enterprise crew discovers a paradise on the Alpha Quadrant planet Gamma Trianguli 6, ruled by another machine, revered by the locals as a god. Episode 10, Mirror Mirror, takes the crew to Halka, where upon beaming up, an ion storm temporarily causes the away team to swap places with their mirror universe counterparts. In Episode 11, The Deadly Years, the Enterprise visits an experimental colony on Gamma Hydra 4, where the colonists are experiencing rapid aging due to an experiment gone wrong. This episode, of course, formed the basis of the Next Generation episode Unnatural Selection. Gamma Hydra has been presumed to be the real star Gamma Hydrae, placed in the Beta Quadrant. Episode 12, I, Mud, sees the Enterprise captured by Harry Mudd, who now rules a planet full of androids from the Andromeda Galaxy. The location of Planet Mud has always been dubious, though in many sources it's inferred to be a few light years from Deneb Kaitos, so I'm placing it here in the Alpha Quadrant beyond the old UFP border. In episode 13, The Trouble with Tribbles, the Enterprise visits Deep Space Station K7 to discuss the Federation and Klingon Empire's joint claim on the nearby Sherman's Planet in the Beta Quadrant, and of course they must deal with an outbreak of Tribbles. In episode 14, Bread and Circuses, the Enterprise crew is captured on a planet whose culture resembles the Roman Empire, but with 20th century technology. This planet, FGC 8924, has never been mapped to my knowledge, but Star Charts confirms it's in the Beta Quadrant, presumably partway between K7 and the Enterprise's next destination in episode 15, Journey to Babel. In Journey to Babel, the Enterprise arrives at Vulcan and picks up the remaining delegates for a conference at the neutral planetoid Babel in the Beta Quadrant, where Federation dignitaries will discuss the admission of Corridon to the Federation. In episode 16, A Private Little War, the Enterprise crew discovers that the Klingons are providing the natives of the planet Neural, who possess a Stone Age society, with advanced weapons. Neural is said to be located in the Zeta Boötis system in the Alpha Quadrant. In episode 17, The Gamesters of Triskelion, Kirk, Uhura, and Chekhov are kidnapped on the Federation planet Gamma-2 by natives of the M24 Alpha system, which is 11 light-years away. M24 Alpha, or Triskelion, has not been mapped in 21st century reference materials as far as I know, but the now outdated 1980 reference book, Star Trek Maps, places it on a tangent line between Sol and Memory Alpha. Much like Aminiar's location in Star Cluster NGC 321, the usage of the nomenclature M24 for Triskelion is a holdover of outdated terminology for magnetic clouds that turned out to be extragalactic star clusters. Again, this is something that was known even in 1967. But suffice it to say, I've decided to place Triskelion in the Alpha Quadrant in the direction of Sagittarius, though this is also just a guess. Nevertheless, the next episode, Obsession, takes the Enterprise to planet Argus 10 in the Alpha Quadrant to pick up medical supplies destined for the planet Theta 7. This Theta system is not mapped in modern reference sources, but older maps place it in the general vicinity of Argelius, so I'm putting it near the neutral zone. This also works because it's about a quarter of the way to the Enterprise's destination in the next episode, The Immunity Syndrome, in which the Enterprise investigates the destruction of the USS Intrepid by a giant space amoeba near Gamma 7A in the Beta Quadrant. Episode 20, A Piece of the Action, sees the Enterprise visit Sigma Iota 2 in the Beta Quadrant, last visited by the Earthship Horizon 100 years ago. They find that the native population has based its culture on the Chicago mobsters of the 1920s, the result of cultural contamination by a book left by the Horizon. In episode 21, By Any Other Name, the Enterprise is hijacked by Kelvins from the Andromeda Galaxy, though we're given no indication as to where exactly this episode takes place, other than that we once again encounter the galactic barrier, which, as I said, should be accessible from a lot of places. While stars in the direction of the Andromeda constellation would be located in the Alpha Quadrant, for the sake of convenience, I'm once again going to chart a line straight from Sigma Iota to the Enterprise's destination in the next episode, Return to Tomorrow. In this outing, the crew discovers the survivors of a race that died out 500,000 years ago, the Aretians, who supposedly influenced the evolution of the Vulcan species. The Aretians' home planet is not mapped in any modern reference materials, but the explored space map shown in Conspiracy and Star Trek VI place it vaguely northeast of the Sol sector, closer to the Romulan neutral zone. The modern Star Trek novel continuity also suggests that the Aretians were allied with the ancestors of the Deltan race, so it makes sense to me to place it close to Delta as well. I have no idea if this is accurate, but it's the best guess that I can make based on the available information. In episode 23, Patterns of Force, the Enterprise encounters yet another planet with a society contaminated by Earth culture, this time in the form of Nazism. This planet, Ecos, has also not been mapped in modern reference materials, though it is said to be located in the star system M43 Alpha. The Messier 43 Nebula is located 1,300 light-years away in the constellation Orion, though I have a sneaking suspicion that, much like Aminiar and Triskelion, Ecos isn't supposed to be quite as distant as the namesakes of their systems suggest. Indeed, Star Trek Maps places it somewhat close to Epsilon Ceti, home of Risa, so I've decided to place it in the Beta Quadrant near Risa, though this is also just a guess. Either way, Episode 24, The Ultimate Computer, sees the Enterprise visit Starbase 6 to pick up Richard Daystrom, who intends to test his new M5 multitronic unit with a general planetary survey of Alpha Carinae II, or the second planet orbiting Canopus. After the computer fails in its real task to demonstrate its capability as a replacement for Kirk as commander of the Enterprise, Daystrom is returned to Starbase 6. Subsequently, in Episode 25, The Omega Glory, the Enterprise visits the planet Omega-4 near Klingon space, where Kirk teaches the natives about the US Constitution. It's one of those episodes. After that, in Assignment Earth, the Enterprise arrives back at Earth once again on a routine time travel mission, something that they apparently started to do in the late 2260s, inadvertently becoming entangled in Class 1 Supervisor Gary Seven's mission to sabotage the deployment of an orbital nuclear warhead platform. The first episode of Season 3, Spectre of the Gun, sees the Enterprise visit the homeworld of the xenophobic Melkotians, where the landing party is forced to reenact the gunfight at the OK Corral. Stellar cartography places Melkotia in the Beta Quadrant near Amargosa and Starbase 336. In Episode 2, Elan of Troyes, the Enterprise transports the Dolmen of Elas, Elan, to an arranged marriage on Troyes, the outer of two inhabited planets in the Telon star system in the Beta Quadrant. That was all kind of a mouthful. In Episode 3, The Paradise Syndrome, the Enterprise comes across a planet called Amerind, inhabited by descendants of Native American tribes, who were transported there centuries ago by an ancient race known as the Preservers. Amerind is not mapped in modern reference materials, but Star Trek Maps places it around a G-type star in the vicinity of Halka in the Alpha Quadrant. Episode 4, The Enterprise Incident, features an encounter between the Enterprise and the crew of the Romulan flagship. This event takes place at a location mapped by stellar cartography in the Romulan neutral zone. Episode 5, And the Children Shall Lead, takes place around the Federation outpost Triacus, where a group of children under the influence of a non-corporeal being, Gorgon, take control of the Enterprise. I haven't been able to find Triacus' location on any of the modern star maps despite my best efforts, but it is supposed to be located close to Epsilon Indi, home of the cat-like Dralaxians. In Episode 6, Spock's Brain, Spock's brain is stolen by...
Brain! What is brain?
Is stolen by a native of the Sigma Draconis system, which is located 18 light-years away from Earth in the Alpha Quadrant. In Episode 7, Is There in Truth No Beauty?, the Enterprise is assigned to transport the Medusan ambassador to the Federation, Kolos, back to his homeworld. We don't know exactly where Medusa is located in canon, but most sources place it in the Xi Hydrae system. While many maps place Xi Hydrae squarely within Romulan territory, the fact is, this may as well be merely an illusion. You see, as I've stated before in other videos of mine, star maps like star charts and stellar cartography, while very useful tools, do suffer from one major flaw, and it's something that I've already alluded to in this video. That is, they attempt to project locations in three-dimensional space onto a familiar two-dimensional cartographic layout, which is in many ways problematic. One has to determine whether to place certain star systems where they would truly be in a top-down view of the galaxy, or whether to spread them out for a simpler viewing. Otherwise, local space would get very, very crowded, and it still is very crowded, mainly due to the Earth being the capital of the Federation. In any event, Xi Hydrae, which has a declination of 31 degrees south of the celestial equator, could be located above most of Romulan space in 3 dimensions. I talk more about this phenomenon in an older video of mine. What does Star Trek's Alpha Quadrant look like? In Episode 8, The Empath, the Enterprise evacuates a research station on the planet Minara 2, whose sun is about to go supernova. Minara also hasn't been mapped in modern reference materials to my knowledge, but Star Trek Maps places it about halfway between Gamma Trianguli and Tellin, near the Klingon border. This is pretty convenient actually, because the next episode, The Tholian Web, depicts first contact, in the Prime universe, between Earth and the Tholian Assembly. In Episode 10, For the World is Hollow and I Have Touched the Sky, the Enterprise crew discovers a generational asteroid ship housing the remnants of the Fabrini civilization. This asteroid, Yonada, is on a collision course with the populated planet Darren 5. Darren's location has long been dubious in canon, but Star Trek Maps places it close to the Romulan neutral zone. In Episode 11, Day of the Dove, the crews of the Enterprise and a Klingon ship are pitted against each other by a powerful non-corporeal entity native to the planet Beta-12A, orbiting Beta Leonis Minoris in the Beta Quadrant. In Episode 12, Plato's Stepchildren, the Enterprise meets a group of aliens who, get this, are big fans of Plato. After their homeworld of Sandara was destroyed in the first millennium BC, they briefly settled on Earth, where they were exposed to Greek culture before they moved on to the planet Platonius, located near Tellarian space in the Alpha Quadrant. Episode 13, Wink of an Eye, brings the Enterprise to the planet Scalos, near the Cardassian border, where the crew is abducted by the native Scalosians, who wish to use them as breeding stock. In Episode 14, That Which Survives, an Enterprise away team is stranded on an outpost of the Kalandan civilization, which went extinct a few thousand years ago. Kalandan space has, to my knowledge, never been mapped in canon or in modern reference materials, but Star Trek Maps places it near Charon in the Beta Quadrant, so I'm placing it near the neutral zone. This is also convenient, as in the next episode, Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, the Enterprise becomes entangled in a chase between a fugitive and his pursuer, both natives of Charon, as they depart the planet Arianus. Episode 16, Whom Gods Destroy, introduces Garth of Izar, who holds the Enterprise crew captive at a correctional facility on the planet Elba 2. Elba is not mapped in modern reference materials as far as I can tell, but Star Trek Maps places it in the vicinity of Halka and Scalos. In Episode 17, The Mark of Gideon, the Enterprise visits a planet petitioning for Federation membership that is severely overpopulated due to its germ-free atmosphere. Canonically, Gideon is located in the Alpha Quadrant, just beyond core Federation territory. In Episode 18, The Lice of Zatar, the Enterprise crew is threatened by aliens who have severely incapacitated the staff at the Federation Library planetoid Memory Alpha, also located in the Alpha Quadrant. In Episode 19, The Cloudminders, the Enterprise visits the planet Ardana, a member of the Federation located in the Mu Ara system near the Klingon border. Ardana's society is built on the backs of a slave labor force, the Troglodytes, some of whom form a resistance force called the Disruptors and withhold the precious mineral Zenite from being exported to Merak 2. I guess the standards for Federation admission were quite lower back then. In Episode 20, The Way to Eden, the Enterprise picks up a group of space hippies who have abandoned technology and are in search of the planet Eden, which is across the neutral zone in Romulan territory. In Episode 21, Requiem for Methuselah, while searching for a cure to a deadly disease, the Enterprise meets Flint the Immortal, who resides on the planet Holberg 917G and holds the landing party hostage. Holberg 917G is said to be in the Omega system, though I personally find it likely that this is a different Omega from that of Omega 4, which is corroborated by the explored space map from Conspiracy in Star Trek VI. So I've placed it relatively close to the Sol system, given that Flint is native to Earth and has presumably operated in local space for some time. Episode 22, The Savage Curtain, introduces the planet Excalbia and its native civilization, the Excalbians, who pit the Enterprise crew against recreations of various historical figures like Genghis Khan, Philip Green, and Kahless the Unforgettable. Excalibur's position in galactic space has, to my knowledge, not been mapped in the modern reference materials, but Star Trek Maps places it roughly halfway between Amerind and Halka in the night sky. So I'm relatively comfortable placing it just west of the Alpha-Beta Quadrant border, though keep in mind this may not be fully reflective of the planet's true distance from Sol. In episode 23, All Our Yesterdays, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy are trapped in various eras of the planet Sarpedon's past, and they must be retrieved before the planet's sun, Beta Niobe, goes supernova. Fortunately, Beta Niobe has a canon location, just west of the Quadrant Line, partway between Talos and the Klingon border. And finally, in episode 24, Turnabout Intruder, Janice Lester, a mad scientist working on Camus 2 in the Beta Quadrant, switches bodies with Kirk in an attempt to hijack his command of the Enterprise. Yeah, a silly way for the series to go out. Not only was Turnabout Intruder the last episode produced in TOS, it was also aired as the series finale. That is until Star Trek's first pilot, The Cage, was aired in 1988. But that was Pike's Enterprise, certainly a story for another time. I don't claim this map to be perfect. As I've alluded to numerous times, I have had to make several educated guesses, some more educated than others. And of course, there is the possibility that I've left some systems out inadvertently, despite my efforts to be thorough. It's also highly likely that this map does not represent every single location visited by the USS Enterprise during the first 3 years of her 5-year mission. And like I said, the animated series is a whole beast unto its own, as are the TOS movies. I have a feeling that this map will receive updates in the future, and I couldn't have made it without assistance from tools like Star Charts, Stellar Cartography, StarTrekMap.com, even Star Trek Maps, and of course the various canon Federation star charts, despite the fact that they each have a different take on the layout of local space. I'm also excited to announce that I plan to share a 16K PNG of this map for patrons and members, accessible by signing up at patreon.com/OrangeRiver or clicking the join button on my YouTube channel page. I'm quite proud of how this map turned out. It was a lot of work, and I hope you enjoy the way it looks. If you do become a patron or member, stay tuned for updates on the progress of further refining this map. Also, in addition to mapping the animated series, mapping Picard's Trek, and more, keep your eyes peeled for analyses of the original series, the animated series, and more in the style of my TNG retrospectives. With that, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below and don't forget to share it. That stuff really helps me out. If you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to do that as well so you won't miss future uploads, and click the bell icon to receive all notifications. If you want to support my work even further, once again, becoming a patron or member is a great way to do so. Links to those, as well as my social media and merch store, are in the description. That's all I have for this week. Live long and prosper.